Hey guys, Jake here, and today I want to talk about something that I've seen pop up a lot, and that is discussion around the PlayStation 4 version of Gran Turismo 7. Since GT7 was originally announced as a PS5 exclusive title, and every Gran Turismo game prior has been an exclusive on one console, it's never been cross-gen before, GT7 being on PS4 has been met with some mixed responses. Now, the first thing I want to say is a disclaimer. I'll be playing the game on PS4 myself. Personally, the PS5 version seems like it's going to be really nice. It looks great, the haptic feedback sounds interesting, but to me, since I already own a PS4 and I didn't want to buy, another console for only one game, I would rather just stick to the PS4, and I would rather just honestly hold out for that PC version that was put in the Nvidia leak. Not anytime soon though, so for now, I'll be sticking to the PS4 version. And since I'll be playing the game on PS4, I just wanted to make that bit of a disclaimer, since I feel like there is some bias when people talk about it being bad on PS4, probably because they're from the people who bought a PS5 to play GT7, and now they feel like the game is going to be watered down because it's going to be on PS4. Personally, I disagree with that, and here's why. First, I want to wind it back a little bit. So, think back to the PlayStation 2 with Gran Turismo 4. Gran Turismo 4 had a bunch of cars, around 700 I believe, and all of these were built from the ground up around the time of Gran Turismo 3, and that game didn't have all that big of a car roster, so they built up plenty of higher quality car models that looked a lot better than their PS1 counterparts for the PS2 generation. However, things got a little bit muddy when things moved to the PS3 with Gran Turismo 5. Y'all know how I feel about Gran Turismo 5 already. But they used standard and premium cars, so these PS2 cars were alongside the PS3 cars. They didn't just use PS3 cars. Gran Turismo 5 Prologue they did, but for the full fat Gran Turismo 5 and 6 games, they used cars from two different console generations. This was met with a lot of mixed opinion and a lot of controversy for the series, so when it came time to go to the PS4, things got a complete revamp. The standard cars were cut completely, and every car eventually was getting turned into a super premium model. Super premium being PS4/5 quality. So while a lot of cars were gone, they were all coming back at the same quality as each other. So your Dihatsu Copen doesn't have to be at a super low quality compared to a Ferrari 458. GT Sport was built from the ground up from PS4, and GT7 is building off of GT Sport. And to me, this was obvious ever since the game's reveal in June of 2020. The reveal trailer very much looked like GT Sport, but better. Obviously, there are upgrades. There are things that look better in this. I think the lighting and just the brightness of everything kind of pops more than GT Sport. The motion blur looks really good, etc. But it is still GT Sports graphics at its core. It is built off of a game for PS4 technology. And personally, what I thought was going to happen is that GT7 was far ways out from launch. I thought the game was going to be released in 2023 or 2024, somewhere around that time, and I thought there was going to be a big advancement in the graphics in that time. Not that the current graphics look bad, they look great, but I thought there was just going to be a bigger change since I thought it was going to be quite a ways out from 2020. But it turns out the game the whole time was meant to be released in 2021. And since it wasn't all that far out if you think about it, the game probably could have ran on PS4, since the game's core graphics are the same as GT Sports. Ray tracing, 4K resolution, etc. If you get rid of those features, you essentially get GT Sports graphics, but this time PS4 players can keep playing online with GT7 players, and of course drive the new cars that will come, on the new tracks that will come, and the new career mode, of course. If this game can run on PS4, there's no real reason to lock PS4 users out of a classic Gran Turismo campaign. A lot of people think that this will highly compromise the game. But that would have only been the case if this game was released, say, in like 2 or 3 years, and was built from the ground up for the PS5, which it absolutely was not. I've even seen the argument that the additions of the PS5 version, so say haptic feedback, 4K ray tracing, since that can't be implemented on PS4, it's going to be a bad version of the game. Even GT Sports graphics look quite great. Of course, they're not perfect. They do have a bit of rough bits here and there, but they look really good. And if that can be what GT7 looks like on the PS4, there's no reason to lock PS4 users out of a campaign continuing to play online, since GT Sport will probably get shut down, new cars and tracks, etc. And I think with the PlayStation 5 specifically, not even the Xbox Series consoles, but the PlayStation 5 specifically, there is a misconception I'm noticing with every cross-gen game that seems to come out beyond Gran Turismo. People seem to think that every single game that is released for the PlayStation 5 is going to look like a built from the ground up PlayStation 5 game, when that is absolutely not the case. Games take longer to develop nowadays, and since the PS5 is so hard to find, why would you make a game with your only install base being the people who got lucky enough to get a PS5 or bought one from a scalper? The PS4 has a much larger install base, and the PS5's isn't exactly gigantic. So there isn't going to be a lot of games built from the ground up for PS5 right now. And it seems like a lot of people think that every single game is going to look like the Matrix Awakens demo, when that is, a very small demo that is built for next-gen consoles. Not a full game, and it wasn't made to be cross-gen. It's not my favorite looking game, specifically just because there are some things with Unreal Engine that I'm not a huge fan of, but in terms of like the facial animations, the motion blur, stuff like that, looks amazing. But, again, it's very small, and it was built from the ground up for next gen, so it's going to look very different than something built cross-generation. An example I really like to use personally is Need for Speed games on the Xbox 360. At first, it was Most Wanted 05 that was the first next-gen Need for Speed game. And of course, it looked much better than its, 6th-gen counterpart, but it didn't look next-gen. It looked very much like an enhanced, highly enhanced 6th-gen game. But this was the case for the next 3 to 4 years. It was only in 2009, with Need for Speed Shift, that we got a fully next-gen Need for Speed title. And it shows. Look at the cross-gen Need for Speed Most Wanted versus the next-gen only Need for Speed Shift. And Need for Speed Shift couldn't have been released in 2005 or 2006. The hardware wasn't understood as much at the time, and it takes years to develop a game. So it took a bit later to fully take advantage of the new console hardware, but you can see it so much in Shift's graphics. Not every game is going to look completely next-gen, especially with, the case we have with next-gen consoles right now, and I don't have a problem with that. But that's not a thing exclusive to this generation. It happens with every single console generation. Except Need for Speed on 8th-gen consoles, it actually got worse as the generation went on, but that's a case of its own. Anyways, I think the only thing that could be compromised by putting Gran Turismo 7 on the PS4 is maybe the amount of cars on track at once, which I personally don't have a problem with. I think there's already enough, but I get why people would be annoyed at that. Anyways, let me know if you agree or not. Do you think Gran Turismo 7 will be compromised? Do you think Gran Turismo 7 should have been built up for next gen and we should have just waited much longer for it? What are your thoughts on all this in the comments below? I'm curious to hear. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.